Chosen ones, 5 signs you're spiritually ranked first, but humanly hidden. There's a strange feeling that never quite leaves you. It's the sense that you were meant for something more, something deeper, something the world hasn't seen yet. You walk through life with this invisible weight, this unshakable awareness that you're different, not in a way that makes you better than others, but in a way that makes you responsible for more. And yet, despite this spiritual knowing, you often feel completely overlooked, pushed to the side, unnoticed, even by those closest to you. And that can be one of the most painful contradictions of your existence, feeling chosen by something higher, but hidden by everything around you. What if I told you that this isn't a mistake? That your hiddenness is not neglect, it's divine strategy? What if being invisible to the world is the very thing that proves you've been seen by God? You see, in the spiritual realm, ranking isn't about popularity, applause, or position. It's about readiness, depth, surrender. And those who are ranked highest by spirit are often the ones the world doesn't even recognize. You may not have the followers, the fame, or the validation, but if you're spiritually ranked first, none of that matters. Because when the Creator chooses you, it's not for a stage, it's for a mission.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's start with the first sign. You've been misunderstood your entire life, not just occasionally, consistently. People see you, but they don't get you. You speak truth, but it's too sharp. You love deeply, but it's too intense. You walk into rooms and feel everything, pick up what's unspoken, and move differently. And because of that, people distance themselves not out of hate, but out of discomfort. You mirror things they're not ready to face within themselves, and instead of leaning in, they label you too much, too sensitive, too deep, too different. But what if I told you that their inability to understand you is actually confirmation that your soul is operating on a different frequency? You were never meant to blend in, and that's exactly why you felt so alone. The spiritually ranked are often set apart not to punish them, but to preserve them. Your path required a solitude others didn't need, because what you're carrying is sacred, and sacred things don't get exposed to just anyone. So God hid you, not to delay you, but to develop you. Because if people had accepted you too quickly, their praise might have poisoned your purpose. If the world had applauded you too early, you might have built your identity on noise instead of truth. So instead, you were tucked away, in plain sight, present but unseen, and that was divine. The second sign is this: you can't unsee what others ignore. Injustice, lies, manipulation, spiritual emptiness, you feel it instantly. It's not just that you notice it, it hits you. You can walk into a place and feel its energy shift your body. You can hear someone speak and know they're not telling the whole truth. You see beyond the surface, and at times you wish you didn't. Because it's exhausting. It makes relationships harder. It makes small talk unbearable. It makes pretending impossible. But this is the cost of spiritual elevation. The more awake you become, the less you can tolerate what's false. And that's because your soul has been ranked for something real, something pure, something most people can't yet see. But here's what no one tells you. Being spiritually ranked doesn't mean you're always ready. It means you're always being prepared. That's the third sign. Your life has been one long initiation. Cycles of loss, betrayal, silence, rebuilding. Over and over. Just when you think you've arrived, the ground shakes again. Just when you get comfortable, another layer is stripped away. And while others seem to coast, you wrestle. You die 1,000 deaths just to reach the next version of yourself. It's not because you're cursed, it's because you're called. And calling requires refinement. Because if you're going to carry spiritual authority, you have to be empty of ego. And that emptiness, it's forged in fire, in heartbreak, in starting over. So let me ask you, how many times have you been broken only to rise again stronger? How many versions of you have had to die so the real you could live? That's not weakness. That's your ranking. That's the evidence that you're being trusted with something much bigger than you. And while others chase purpose for performance, you've been becoming purpose in silence, in secret, in surrender. The fourth sign is that your presence shifts atmospheres. You don't have to say a word. You walk in and things move. People feel something they can't explain. Some are drawn to you instantly. Others avoid you without knowing why. That's because your energy is disruptive, but in the best way. You carry truth. You carry light. You carry frequency. And people who aren't ready to evolve will see that as a threat. I don't take it personally. It's not about you. It's about what you trigger in them. Your presence is a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. That's why you've had to learn how to carry your light without dimming it, even when it makes others uncomfortable. And finally, the fifth sign, you keep being positioned last, but your spirit knows you're first. It's the paradox of the chosen ones. You're often the last to be picked, the last to be praised, the last to be promoted. But deep down, your soul doesn't panic, because it knows, it just knows, that something bigger is guiding the timing, that what's for you won't miss you, that you weren't created to fit into systems, you were created to rebuild them. And that kind of assignment doesn't come quickly. It comes when you're fully ready. So yes, you've been hidden, but not because you're not worthy. You've been hidden because you're dangerous to everything false, shallow, and broken in this world. Why the spiritually first must be hidden until the world is ready for their light. There's a deep mystery in the way the divine operates. When something is immensely powerful, it isn't thrown into the spotlight, it's concealed. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. Think about it. The most valuable treasures on earth are buried deep beneath the surface. Gold, diamonds, sacred artifacts, they're hidden, protected, not because they're irrelevant, but because they're rare. So why would we think that spiritual power would be any different? If you've been feeling unseen, passed over, or kept in the shadows while your soul burns with purpose, it's not because you're behind. It's because you're ahead, and the world hasn't caught up to your light yet. You see, being spiritually ranked first means you're carrying a light that isn't for entertainment, it's for transformation. And transformation is uncomfortable. It disturbs what's familiar. It demands people to see differently, choose differently, become differently. That's why your light can't just appear casually. It has to be timed. Because if you're revealed too soon, people won't receive you, they'll reject you. Not because you're wrong, but because they're not ready. And readiness is everything. So God in His infinite wisdom hides you, not to punish you, to protect the mission you carry. And I know it's hard, waiting in the shadows while others shine, watching people with less depth, less truth, less integrity rise quickly, while you sit in silence, doing the inner work no one sees. It can make you question everything. What am I doing wrong? Why am I still invisible? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, what is being built inside of me that's too sacred to be rushed? Because spiritual ranking isn't about moments, it's about movement. And movements take time. They require weight. And only those who have been hidden long enough to develop roots can carry that kind of weight. So yes, you've been hidden, but in that hiddenness you've been becoming. You've been wrestling with your ego, unlearning the lies the world taught you, shedding the layers that were never truly you. You've been learning how to hear without noise, how to lead without needing followers, how to love without conditions. That's spiritual mastery. And mastery is never loud. It's forged in quiet obedience, in unseen sacrifices, in the choice to keep rising even when no one notices. Let me ask you something soul deep. Would you still choose to walk in your purpose if no one ever clapped for you? Would you still speak your truth if it cost you every relationship? Would you still carry your light if the world called it strange? Because that's the test. That's the fire that separates the seekers from the chosen. The spiritually ranked first are not the ones who chase visibility, they're the ones who carry vision even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, even when it makes no logical sense. And here's what's wild. The longer you've been hidden, the more explosive your reveal will be. Because God doesn't build in vain. When He takes His time, it means He's crafting something legendary, something generational. And when the moment comes, your unveiling won't just shift your life. It'll shift lives. You'll walk into rooms and unlock hearts. You'll speak words that change atmospheres. You'll move with a frequency that people can't explain but can't ignore. That's what your hidden years have been preparing you for. But the timing, that's not up to you. That belongs to the divine. Your only task is to stay ready. Keep becoming. Keep surrendering. Keep nurturing the sacred within you. Because when the world is finally ready for your light, it'll come fast, suddenly. And you won't have time to build, then you'll only have time to be. So this hidden season is holy. It's not a pause. It's a preparation ground. A sacred chamber where your spirit is being aligned with your future impact. So stop resenting the silence. Start revering it. Stop begging to be seen. Start embodying the light you'll one day reveal. Because you are not waiting to become something you already are. You're just being protected until the world is able to hold the weight of who you've become. And when that moment comes, your story will not be one of instant fame, but eternal purpose. The burden of being first, why the chosen ones are tested harder than others. There's a question that echoes in the soul of every chosen one. Why does my path feel so much harder than everyone else's? Why do I seem to carry more weight, face more resistance, feel more deeply, and rise more slowly? It's not just bad luck. It's not because you're broken or flawed. It's because you are first. And being first comes with a burden that most people will never understand. You're not just living for yourself, you're clearing a path, breaking generational patterns, shifting frequencies, and carrying light into places that have been dark for too long. That kind of assignment demands more sacrifice, more vision, more surrender, more pain. When you are spiritually ranked first, you are not just being elevated, you are being entrusted. And trust from the divine doesn't come cheap. It requires a life that's tested in every corner. Tested not to destroy you, but to refine you. Because the spiritually ranked are not chosen for comfort, they are chosen for capacity. And the only way to know how much you can carry is to put weight on you. So God doesn't test you to punish you. He tests you to reveal you, to you first, then to the world. Look at your life. Look at the intensity of your lessons, the depth of your heartbreaks, the magnitude of your awakenings. That wasn't coincidence. That was calibration. You were being aligned with something greater than you could comprehend at the time. Every betrayal stripped away illusion. Every delay sharpened your discernment. Every loss made you confront your attachments. All of it was sacred training. Because when you're first, you don't have the luxury of shortcuts. You're the blueprint, the example, the one others will follow. And the foundation of that kind of life can't be built on anything superficial. But let's be real, spiritual testing doesn't feel holy when you're in it. It feels like punishment, like abandonment, like being forgotten by the very force you've devoted your life to. There are nights when your prayers feel like they bounce off the ceiling. Days when your purpose feels like a burden instead of a blessing. Moments when you want to quit, disappear, go back to a life where it was easier to be numb. And yet you don't. Something in you keeps going, keeps showing up, keeps choosing truth over ease. That's not weakness, that's ranking. That's the spirit of someone who was built for more. So let me ask you something that only someone spiritually ranked first can answer. Would you still walk this path if no one ever thanked you for it? If no one saw what you had to overcome just to show up with love in your heart? Would you still carry the torch if it meant walking alone through fire? Because that's the cost of being first. You don't just get the crown, you get the cross. The weight, the responsibility, the isolation. But you also get the intimacy, the direct connection with the divine, the kind of knowing and trust that can only be built through fire. And that's the paradox: the deeper your pain, the closer you are to purpose. The greater your tests, the higher your calling. What others see as chaos, you begin to recognize as divine construction, because your soul has been forged in places most people aren't willing to go. And that's why you're ranked first. Not because you're perfect, but because you're willing. Willing to be broken if it means being rebuilt in truth. Willing to be misunderstood if it means standing for something real. Willing to lose lesser things to make room for something eternal. But here's what you must remember: you are not being tested to prove your worth. You are being tested to activate your authority. Authority that comes not from titles or followers, but from survival, from the fact that you're still here, still growing, still becoming. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you dangerous to every system built on lies and illusion. You carry truth in your bones, and truth is disruptive. That's why your life has felt like constant resistance, because you weren't born to blend in, you were born to break through. So don't romanticize the path of the chosen. It's not glamorous, it's sacred. And sacred things are hard. They will strip you before they crown you, wreck you before they raise you. But every time you rise from the ashes, you rise with more than you had before. More clarity, more wisdom, more depth. And one day people will look at you and say, "How did you become this?" And you'll smile, because they won't know about the nights on your knees, the silent battles, the invisible scars. But you'll know, and God will know, and that will be enough. You were born to awaken others, how to lead without needing the spotlight. There's a rare kind of leader the world doesn't talk about enough. The kind that doesn't stand on stages, doesn't demand attention, doesn't chase applause, but somehow, wherever they go, people change. Their presence awakens something ancient. Their words unlock what was buried. Their silence even holds power. And if you're reading this, chances are you are that kind of leader, not the loud one, not the obvious one, but the essential one. You were born to awaken others, not by standing above them, but by standing with them. Not by being seen, but by seeing them. And that kind of leadership, it doesn't need a spotlight. It is the light. You've probably already noticed it. People come to you when they're lost. They open up to you without knowing why. They leave your presence feeling lighter, clearer, more themselves. But what they don't see, what they can't see, is what it costs you to hold that space. The energy it takes to be the safe place. The inner work you've done to become the mirror. The pain you've transmuted into wisdom. They don't see the nights you questioned your own worth, even as you reminded them of theirs. They don't see the times you poured from an empty cup just to keep someone else from breaking. But that's the paradox of the chosen. You're healing others while still healing yourself. And somehow, your light reaches through the cracks. This is what it means to lead spiritually. You don't lead with control, you lead with frequency. You don't command people to follow, you invite them to remember who they are. And that invitation? It doesn't come through grand gestures. It comes through presence. Through your ability to stay grounded when others are shaken. Through your silence when the world is shouting. Through your authenticity in a culture obsessed with performance. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be the space where truth can rise to the surface. But here's the truth most people don't understand. Leading without the spotlight is often harder than leading in it. Because there's no validation, no applause, no recognition. You don't get the dopamine hit of being celebrated. You just get the quiet knowing that you're doing what your soul came here to do. And sometimes that has to be enough. Because the path isn't about being admired, it's about being effective. It's about planting seeds you may never see bloom, but trusting that they will. It's about living your life in such deep alignment that others begin to question their own disconnection. So let me ask you, with all the honesty in your spirit, are you still willing to lead if no one ever gives you credit for it? Are you willing to carry your calling in silence? To be a lighthouse for others, even when no one notices the storm you're standing in? Because that's what spiritual leadership looks like. It's not about building followers. It's about building foundations in people, in communities, in energy fields. And you do that not by pushing, but by being. By becoming a living example of what healing looks like, what wholeness feels like, what truth sounds like. You were never meant to be the loudest in the room. You were meant to be the clearest. You were never meant to compete for a stage. You were meant to walk into the room and shift it without saying a word. Because your power doesn't come from human validation, it comes from spiritual alignment. And when you're aligned, your presence carries a resonance that no title, no platform, no algorithm can replicate. That's why you're spiritually ranked first, even if the world doesn't know your name. So walk your path. Keep showing up. Keep leading by example. Keep radiating truth even when no one applauds. Because you were not born to be famous. You were born to be faithful. You were not made to go viral. You were made to be vital. And when your soul finally meets the souls you were meant to awaken, the impact will ripple through generations. Quietly, powerfully, eternally. And that is more than enough.